Debt management 101. Okay. So the very first thing you want to do when it comes to managing your debts or even on paying it off or anything. So most people know, okay, I have student loans, I have credit card debt, I have this, I have that. They don't know the amount. They don't know the interest rates. They don't even know the minimum payment sometimes. You understand? They just kind of go with the flow. But the next thing you want to know when it comes to managing your debt. So number one is to actually know the debt. You understand? Number two is to know your cash flow, which in other words, know your budgets. You understand? How much is coming into your account each month? How much is going out? Most importantly, what is left over? Most people know how much is coming in. Some know how much is going out. But the most important thing you want to know is how much is actually left over, because it's from that leftover you're going to be able to pay extra on any debt that you have. If you don't rule over your finances, I always say the lack of control over it will rule over you. You understand? So you want to make sure you have that control in that you understand what's coming in, what's going out. You don't have to use anything fancy like a budgeting app if you don't want to. Simple pen and paper, you understand? Each week, write down, okay, how much came in, how much went out, you understand? Which ones are fixed, which ones are variable. So fixed are the ones that, they automatically take it. It's the same amount roughly each month. Then variable is the one that you have some sort of control over, what actually goes out. You understand? So you want to know and understand that aspect of your finances, okay? And all this is leading up to actually paying off the debt. Okay, so that's one, and then that's two. Number three, and which is the final step, is to basically choose a plan, like choose your debt payoff strategy. There are different ways to pay off debt. Some of the most popular ones, I'll be discussing 3 today, just because those are the 3 most popular ones. And 9 out of 10 times, most people will fall into this category. The very first strategy is called the debt snowball. So when it comes to the debt snowball, what you do is you're going to list all your debts from the smallest one to the largest one, or from the lowest to the highest in terms of the total balance owing. Keep in mind from step 1, we found out 3 things from each debt: the total balance owing, the interest rate, and the minimum monthly payment. Okay, all those 3 things matter in the strategy that you use, or in the strategy that you choose to use. Okay, so for the debt snowball, you list your debts from the smallest one to the biggest one, and then you pay the minimum payment on the smallest one, right? Which is again what we discovered in step 1. And you pay the minimum payment on everything except the smallest one. So on the smallest one, any extra cash flow you have that you discovered from step 2, any extra money you have, then you put it on the smallest one. You understand? And then from there, once that one is paid off, you take the minimum payment from that smallest one plus the extra cash flow you found, and then you apply it to the next one. Okay, some pros to this particular approach. One of the reasons I really like it is you gain a lot of momentum with this. You understand? In the sense of like that snowball I was talking about, it grows because as it's rolling down the hill, it's picking up more snow. You understand? So as you begin this process, you start with whatever free cash flow you have, you're dumping it on the smallest debt. Then as you pay that off, you start to figure out, oh, okay, what are other ways you can increase your cash flow? So there's a whole bunch of optimization that happens naturally as a result of doing this, because now it becomes almost like a game. You're looking at your budget, you're looking at your cash flow and figuring out, okay, where can I shave more? Where can I reduce expenses? Where can I increase my income so that I can add more to be able to pay off this debt? You understand? It almost becomes like a game. And the main reason I really, really like it is because by the time you're done with this process, you've optimized your finances such that you're now living on what it actually takes for you to live, survive, and be happy. I mentioned another pro. One of the reasons I really like this method is it really helps you focus on increasing your cash flow. And you can increase your cash flow in one of 2 ways. 1, you decrease your expenses. 2, you increase your outcome. You understand? So you know what you're focusing on. You're not torn in different. And because you have a plan, one of the biggest reasons I like, any one of these debt payoff strategies is because you have a plan. Your mental load is freed up. Like, you'll be surprised once you determine that, okay, you've written all your debts down, you've chosen a strategy, and this is what you're going to attack first, and then you're going to attack this next. It frees up so much space in your mind. Okay. The cons to this is the fact that, some schools of thought believe, okay, which is going to be the next one we talk about, which is called the debt avalanche. Some believe that, okay, you should pay off debts that have the highest interest first. You understand? And, to a large extent, that also makes sense. We'll discuss it. That's the next strategy to discuss. Because obviously if you have a debt that has higher interest, then your cost of borrowing is higher there. You understand? So that's just one con for this. Which one makes sense? Which one doesn't? Okay. Debt avalanche. So basically, everything I just mentioned for the debt snowball is the exact same thing, except you pay off the one that has the highest interest first. You understand? So in the debt snowball method, it's the one that has the lowest balance you start with. You understand? So let's say you have a debt, the total owing is 100, another one is 1,000, another one is 1,500. You will pay off the 100 first, then the 1,000, then 1,500. Anyways, you would pay off the $100 first because it has the highest interest, not because it's the smallest balance. Okay. Again, we're going to walk through an example very soon. The third strategy is debt consolidation. Okay, so basically this method is basically if you have room, let's say on a line of credit, on a home equity line of credit, on a credit card, on different other means of borrowing, rather than try and pay off, let's say once you've done step one, which is to know your debts, let's say you've written everything down and you realize, you have 15 different debts. And you just don't want to focus on 15 different things. One method is to, for example, take all that debt, roll it into one. You understand? So you will need to apply for, we'll go into details of this just in a minute. So basically, if you have room on a line of credit or whatnot, let's even say you don't have a line of credit, you can then go and get a line of credit, use the line of credit to pay off all the 15 debts and then focus on only paying the line of credit. Okay. So that's one method. So we've discussed three different strategies now. First one is the debt snowball, which is where you pay the minimum payment on everything except the smallest one. No, not except, including the smallest one, and any free cash flow you have, you use it to attack the smallest one. And then you keep doing that on repeat until you've reached the last one and pay it off. The debt avalanche is basically the same thing. You pay minimum payment on everything except the one with the highest interest, which is where you take your free cash flow and you attack that one first. You keep doing that on repeat until you get to the next one. One thing I would say for the debt snowball and the debt avalanche, I said it before, but I want to reiterate it. Make sure the minimum payment. So let's say you finish paying off the $100 one. You don't now take the minimum payment from that one and start spending it. No, you take that minimum payment plus the free cash flow and apply it to the next one. Okay. And that's for debt consolidation. Some of the pros and cons, some of the issues I personally have with it, not personally, but some of the issues people run into with this is because one, you usually need very good credit to do this. And chances are if you have like 15 different credits out there or 15 different loans out there, chances of you having good credit is a little low, especially if you've had, different things like, collections, missed payments, what else? Your credit utilization, for example, you have a credit card that's 10,000, you have a balance on it that's 7,000, that is going to affect your credit, So basically you need very good credit to be able to do this in the sense of, so if your credit score is really low, you may not be able to access a line of credit, or actually the best time to get a line of credit is when you don't need it. As a family, we have at least two. So one for me, one for my husband. We don't use it, but the best time to actually get credit is when you don't need it, which I think is, ironic. For example, let's say you just lost your job, you don't have any cash flow, blah, blah, blah. You go to the bank, they're not going to give you any credit. But the moment you have a job, you do this, that's the time to actually take on the credit. You understand? Okay. Let's go into our example. Okay, so this is how much. So remember how I mentioned the three things you want to know is your total owing, which is this, your minimum monthly payments, and then the interest. Okay, so in this family, I'm gonna okay. So on the BMO line of credits, they don't owe anything. Okay. So the available amounts they have is $100,000 on a 10-year term. So their home was say 500,000. The loan to value that they usually would do for a line of credit is about 80%. So let's just assume they've been in this house for 5 to 10 years. So they've paid off enough such that they're able to borrow at least 100,000 on a home equity line of credit. That's the interest. They've put nothing on it. Okay, so far. So the entire 100,000 is available. They have a line of credit to CIBC. They've currently borrowed 6,000 on it. The minimum monthly payment, as usual, is 2% of the balance, or $50, whichever is higher. So that's why this is 120. And this is the interest rate. Excuse me. The CRA. So they have someone in this family over contributed to the RSP, they ended up getting a fine, blah, blah, blah. This is how much it is. This is the interest rate. And, again, one of the reasons why I like to take care of the CRA and co first is because then they start to do things like seize your tax return. They could garnish your wages. I really just don't want that mess. So settle the CRA and just get them out of your life real quick, because if you don't pay them or you don't pay attention to them and they decide to garnish your wages, that's just unnecessary stress. So please take care of taxes first. Even if you don't take care of people first, take care of your taxes or tax related payments first. They also owe on their student loan. So, they currently have a fixed rate. This is the minimum payment. Their WestJet MasterCard, they owe, $2,200. This is the interest rate. The minimum payment is usually $10 plus the interest. So they have 2 car loans, which is typical of most families. One for mom, one for dad, or one for dad. So they have this for a 96-month term. And then, of course, they owe their sister-in-law or their friend, they were in a crunch, and this person borrowed them $3,500. Okay. There's no interest. There's no minimum payment. They just said pay back when you can. Okay. So in total, these folks, John and Jane, this is how much they owe overall when it comes to their debts, roughly $124,000. This is their minimum monthly payment. Okay. And then let's look at some other details of this family. They have their current take home pay is $120,000. So let's just assume John and Jane each bring $60,000 each. So their average take home pay is about $6,800, so $6,850. These are their expenses. So the mortgage on the $500,000 home, current interest rates definitely sitting around here. Their property tax is that, utilities, groceries, gas, cell phone, $600 for other things like, eating out, subscription, gym memberships, clothing, miscellaneous, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, their debt servicing is $1,708, which is what we calculated up here. So minimum of this $6,850, they have at least $1,700 going towards debt management in a month. So this is their total expenses. So this is how much free cash flow this particular family has at this time, once they factor in all their expenses. Now, I know you might say, oh, wow, that's such a small amount. But in today's climate, this is very typical. You have a home that's worth almost $500K. This is roughly how much you're paying. Groceries for a family of, say, 4, even if it's not hitting 1,000, by the time you add so many other factors, it's definitely cutting it close. As average of, $250 to $300 per person, right? Okay. So we've calculated that their free cash flow is this, $122. So let's go back up and say, so remember we talked about 3 methods. The first one was the debt snowball. Second is the debt avalanche. Third is debt consolidation. So if they were going to do this using the debt snowball, they would take this particular worksheet and sort it from the smallest to the largest. Okay. So as we see, the CRA comes first, which I thought was cute. So this is the total balance owing, right? So they will pay the minimum payment on everything except the CRA one, okay? And then this $122 that they have is going to go towards paying off the CRA, right? So they'll keep making the minimum $1,700, and that extra $122 will be paying this one off until it's paid off. And then we go to the MasterCard next. So they would add that $122 to this $148 to this $48, and that's how much they would be paying off until they pay off every single thing. So like I mentioned, I usually like to do CRA first anyway, so it just happens to be that they are first in line, so they will get paid and be closed off. So in this particular case now, what John and Jane need to do is figure out how to increase their $122 so that they can have more free cash flow to be able to clear off those debts, right? So usually, like I mentioned, there's only 2 ways: increase your inflow or decrease your outflow, which is where the game now starts, like Janelle was talking about. You try and figure out, okay, where can you shave off in all these expenses to be able to increase how much you can put towards debt. You understand? Do we really need to spend $1,000 on groceries? Is there a way to manage utilities better? This $600 is where you can really make some real big, can you cancel a gym membership? Do the children have to do swimming right now, or can they wait till we're done paying debt? You understand? So those are the kind of questions then you begin to ask. For your cell phones, can you renegotiate your deals? You understand? Those are some of the things you need to talk about. These 2 cars, for example, the car payments right now total about $1,200. out of the 1,700, do we really need those two cars? Can we get rid of one, or can we get rid of both and go down into cars that we can actually afford? Little things like that. If you were going to do the debt avalanche method, then you would sort this spreadsheet basically this way, largest to smallest. So this one has the highest interest rate. So then RBC would come first, right? Now, in this scenario, you want to be careful because it has CRA at the very, very bottom. So that's not the case. You want to kick that to the top, okay? Interest rate or no interest rate. And then this will be the one to get paid first, then this, then this, then this, okay? So that's basically how it works. But now when it comes to debt consolidation, I'm just going to resort this by the total amount owing, just to keep it simple. You have 125,000 owing. On this home equity line of credit right now, all they have access to is 100,000. So even if they took that 100,000 and paid off, a good chunk of all these debts, there will still be 24,000 roughly that's unaccounted for that they still have to pay. Okay. So that could be one method they choose, whereby, say, for example, they take the 100,000 and pay off the two cars and the student loan, right? So they pay these. Oh, no, it's not enough. Sorry. Pay off the two cars, right? So roughly $80,000. Then they will take these payments of $1,200, and be putting that towards the home equity line of credit. The only issue that usually pops up in this situation, or in situations like this, one, now you're putting your home at risk. You understand? Because if you go to renew your mortgage, for the next time and there's issues, this home equity line of credit will also count. Two, the discipline, because a lot of people, what will then happen is once they've rolled, for example, this 80,000 into the house or into the HELOC, then they will start spending this $1,200 on different things. That's when they're going to go and pick up, a new TV or a new whatever. You understand? So you want to make sure you have that discipline, like we talked about. If you're going to do debt consolidation, it takes even more discipline. So if you've not developed the discipline, that you can't assume you're going to have it all of a sudden because you've consolidated debt. You understand? So again, those are the three different strategies. Pick the one that you think makes sense towards you and your family. We personally, as a family, we use the debt snowball. And again, like I mentioned, the best part of the debt snowball is, the optimization that comes from it, because you learn how to optimize your finances. You understand? It becomes a game. The entire family is involved. How can we save money here? Get the kids involved to get them to sell stuff to be able to raise money to put towards debt. You understand? There's so many ways you can go about it. Find ways to reduce, to increase your income, decrease your outflow. Usually start here. Like decreasing your outflow is the easiest place to start, because you can actually find ways to reduce your consumption in general, so you can free up more cash flow to go towards the debt up here. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining. As usual, we will see you again next week.